All right, the time I have is 6:31 p.m. And so we will commence, we'll call to order this City Council special called meeting on this, the 29th of August, 2017. And the first few items on here are public hearings. Item number 2 is the public hearing to consider testimony regarding a request by the owner agent of an approximately 0.132 acre tract of land from a central business district or CBD zoning to planned development or PD with a base zoning of a central business district, a special event center with overnight guests, entire home rental to guests with no special event as allowed additional uses. Also, a waiver to any fire code requirement such as installation of a fire sprinkler system to maintain the current historical integrity. The property is described as OTP Van Alstyne Edition, Block 26, Lot 11 and 12, more commonly known as 120 East Marshall Drive, formerly known as 101 East Marshall Drive. Is there anyone here who wants to present this item? Anyone here to speak on that? Okay, I see no hands. I'll start a little discussion with the concern that I have about waiving any fire code requirements, such as installation of a sprinkler system, fire sprinkler system, and further, well, when we get to the action item, there's a little more I'll say about that, but that's a concern that I have with this item. And so, with no public comments, is there any commentary or any questions from council?
I have a question. Is the person who submitted this here tonight? Yes, ma'am. I would like to know, I discussed this with Mr. Baker about 2 years ago, and what that house is it was a service station that belonged to Parker and Marguerite Sharing, and they have a record of the gas storage tank being removed on the service station on the corner, but they do not have I cannot locate, and I asked Mr. Baker, he isn't here, but I asked him and he could not locate any evidence that gasoline storage tank under there has ever been removed. It was at the back. Now, I know that in August of 2008, there was a remodeling done there, and it was leveled in the porch on the west side and the entire back. Was the gas storage tank underneath that removed?
We have no knowledge of that at all. There was never one there that we're aware of, or if there was, I really do not know the answer to that.
Well, there was one there because it belonged to Parker and Marguerite Sharing. I bought gas there many times, and the access was to Highway 5, and it was the service station. When you went in it, the back door was there. It was right at the back door of that, and I was really concerned because I can't find a record of that gas storage tank ever being removed.
Do you know if it was underneath that house or underneath the service station with a pipe going to that?
No, it wasn't. My father owned the service station on the corner. There wasn't a pipe. There was a gas storage tank, and it was at the back of the house. It was part of the house. The service station was. So I didn't know if you were produced proof that it was removed from whoever you purchased it from, or I called the past director of Public Works, Benny Edwards. He said, to his knowledge, it had never been removed. And so that is the question that I am asking is, do you have any knowledge that has ever been removed from underneath that house?
The only knowledge we have is it was a residential house built in 1894, and it was always a residential house. That's all that we know about that.
And when they did the addition on that back part, they've got piers underneath there. And so I don't know how you can drill piers with a storage tank there. but-
It's buried under there, not where you're, it came from Highway 5, it didn't come from the
Okay, well, to
alley.
answer your question, we have
Yeah, I have
nothing,
no idea.
No.
we can't
Yes.
offer any.
Yes.
And can I just mention, these are the purchasers of this building. They aren't currently own this building.
Okay, is the owner not here?
If that's the realtor for them, I think she's calling right now to find out if they know anything about that.
Okay, because it was, and I'm sure I'm not the only person here. Mr. Ballard, do you remember Parker and Marguerite sharing service
I remember, but I
station?
don't remember about the tank.
You don't remember about the tank, but you do remember that it was a service station. So that's my concern, that and the 2009 International Fire Code. And Veritas talked to us about a sprinkler system and how that it was for the safety of the people.
We actually have already had the fire inspector, your fire marshal come out and do a walkthrough. If you have that information, because we asked him the same thing. We said, no, what do we need to do here to make this place safe? And he said, he walked through it and he said, how many people do you expect here today? I said, maximum of 14, chances are 8, 10, 6, 8, 10 people. That's what quilt retreats typically have. I said, could be 14. He says, well, the code says over 10, you can require it. But he says, I see no need to require it here. He said, are you adverse to having, concurrent, fire alarms and fire extinguishers? I said, absolutely not. I want all that in here. This is going to be a safe building. And he said he did not feel that that was necessary. He said, so that was his, when we walked through, 'cause we wanted to know it as well. So that was one of the things.
Do you have that report?
Do you have that?
No.
Remember that?
Well, you
Do you
think,
know that
you think it'd be prepared?
Lynn, you were,
Do you know who the gentleman was that walked through?
I think I have, was one of your, I guess you guys have a fire marshal, so.
We have a-
Yeah, he was representing the fire department.
Yeah.
And he says, I know the
the
fire
fire
department.
marshal is county. Is
Right.
that
Oh,
correct?
well, I could probably.
Or Veritas?
Veritas is the one that, I don't have my.
Veritas is not, that's just someone you contact.
Well, the city contacted through Veritas.
Yes, they do, Veritas does all the inspection.
Yeah, so they came out and met us, and I don't have my phone with me, but they're the ones that came out and inspected that. So we had a long chat and asking him all about it, and he said, I don't feel that it's necessary. So I said, well, that's what we're asking, that's what we wanted to know.
But at the time, you did not know it had been a service station, is that correct?
Yes, we answered that. I think it's on the record. But
Yeah, we don't.
Mayor, I got one question for her then, is what is your concern? Is if that tank's there, you're not going to approve this?
Or is it dangerous? What is
Yeah,
it?
what's your concern if it's been there and you've known about it since 2008 and never brought it up to a
I
standard?
did bring it up to Mr. Baker 2 years
But that was,
ago.
okay.
And he
and
was
it was
going to
acceptable.
check into it. No, I've never heard, he's never given me proof that it was ever removed.
Oh.
I don't
So
think
why
there's-
did you close them down? Okay, wow.
I think you need to separate the difference between the fact that you're being advised that it's there.
Right.
You haven't purchased yet. I would go back. And obviously because it's old and you're dealing with an old town, records, city manager was noticed. Is there something in there where a city has to go and tell current owner? I do not know. But separate that from what you're asking to do, which I do see them as somewhat separate. I'm more concerned with we don't have any documentation to tell us who told you, sprinklers weren't required. And I don't know from what specific use he was speaking to, because you're asking for a PD, which is very personalized, and it's a combination of several different, needs, and that is one thing I'm still left with not following.
If I may, I believe Jennifer can access Veritas's database, so but she'll have to take down the screen real quick, so she may be able to access that report so that we can maybe be able to answer who came out and what use was put on the application for Veritas.
Now, I didn't know about this fire tank, or this gas tank, and that really wasn't a part of my concern. And whatever, according to your use and according to the zoning, you know, whatever is allowed, and I don't know how many people can be in there, I don't know the requirements. Now, if according to the requirements, you don't have to have a sprinkler system, for instance, then I think that's okay. But to ask this council to waive any fire code requirement, that's what this item says, and I think that's pretty much the way the ordinance reads. And I have a concern about deliberately waiving anything that is required.
He had said that 10 people was the number. He said, if you have, you know, that's what he told me.
And that's okay?
Yeah.
If it's 10 people, and if the code doesn't require a sprinkler system for 10 people, then that's fine. But I don't think that the council can afford, I don't think we can make the city liable for deliberately waiving any fire code requirement. I think if there's a requirement, we need to meet that requirement, whatever that is. And if you have so many people in there that it requires a sprinkler system, you have to have that. And if the number of people in there don't require one, then it's not a requirement. But I don't think, I don't know how the council feels, but I'm leery, I'm reluctant to waive any fire code requirement.
Well, and I will state,
Has
I mean, these are the
anybody seen the
folks that are
Veritas
asking
report?
for it. I'm a little disappointed because right now it appears we have no city staff to talk to us about what was said, because honestly, I hope you appreciate, I can't take what you're telling me about what the city said. I want to hear it from the city. I don't have city staff here to present exactly what was said, because once again, waiving the fire code based on what reasoning? I mean, we don't have all the facts at this point.
Mayor, can I make one
You're
comment and then I'm going to
aware of
leave before I get excited?
Based on what-
He's got another meeting.
Let me say this for a
And I
minute.
got a church meeting at 7, so
I
I'm going to
will.
go to
It's now
bed.
something we can do, since there's a controversy here. We can table this for a
No.
meeting.
Well, can I make one quick comment? Thank you. It's been tabled, what I can't understand, and this is a special called meeting for this one purpose, or one of the purposes. And I would think if I'm on a council, which I have been, I get ready for it, and I do my homework, and if there's reports out there, I'm ready. And to come in and say, we're not prepared because the city's not here, well, I'm sorry, that's not, and now, let me finish. This thing's been tabled, we were supposed to do this in June, and we were going to close in June and open this thing for a thriving business in Van Alstyne in August. And now we're delayed until October, November now, and that's costing us a heck of a lot of money. And we're coming here trying to make Van Alstyne a good, friendly community. And you know how many people know about the hassles we're going through just to try to get this? That was the exact same business when we came. It's not a goddamn thing different, sorry.
Sir.
So, folks, I'm gone. I table it till next year, but we would probably be dealing with a different client.
The report from Veritas is up on the board.
The inspector, Eric Vinson, did advise that based on discussions with the buyer, it was noted that the occupancy will have sleeping rooms and overnight guests. They find that it will require a fire sprinkler system as well as an accompanying fire alarm system for monitoring.
Yes, but this is based on a
Sure.
categorization of R1, which we're talking about a PD, not an R1, correct?
R1 is set by the fire code. It's not a zoning designation. The PD is zoning.
It's, if it goes structure, it goes in CBD. Is it?
Lee, is it true that if we vote to not do the fire code, then we are liable?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you explain that, please?
I would think that knowingly allowing that,
There you go.
if something happened there, I think that the city could be made part of a lawsuit.
Yeah, if we
No.
go against.
Hold on. So here's how it works. the zoning request is from CBD to plan development. Plan development is the same thing that we typically do for down the street for subdivisions, which makes it a single-family home. Single-family homes are not required to have smoke detectors, alarm systems, or sprinkler systems unless they climb over 3 stories to 4 stories tall and have a max occupancy of more than X amount of people. So what they're doing is taking it from CBD to planned development, essentially making a big house for people to come in and spend the night. So they could keep it CBD, like they did the lofts downtown, where you have people working underneath in the lofts upstairs, and we made those tenants put sprinklers upstairs for the people living in those lofts. So the expense that they are going to incur is a residential sprinkler system. Now, that gets into your R1. So the R1 is a commercial term for full coverage. What you can do is you can apply for in the CBD for 13R, which is a 13R coverage, which is a residential coverage. Now, what that does is it puts sprinklers in the path of egress and exit, so that if you're upstairs and a fire breaks out right down the center of the room, I believe you have a big room up there, right? Right down the center of the room, you put 4 or 5 sprinkler heads to get the proper coverage. You put one in the stairwells that floods the stairwell, and if the alarm goes off, people get up, they walk underneath the water, and they get out. It does not save your house. It does not save the property. A full R1 or 13 system, correct me if I'm wrong, am I on the right track? Okay, full 13 system is full coverage. That means you're gonna have to put sprinkler heads in every little closet, every little room closet, and everything else. So, the CBD can be handled with that application under a 13R. It does not have to be, and that falls under the R1. It does not have to be a full sprinkler 13 system. That, everybody got that? Okay, you want it?
I only have one issue, because here's my confusion. I was understanding we had 2 separate uses going on. One is the vacation rental. I'm following you on what you're saying there. The other is a quilt shop, and that's to me a business.
No, that's not, we're not having any retail at all. No, there's no retail in that.
This is purely a vacation rental.
This is, we want it to be a quilt retreat like it was, where the ladies come in, they spend, ladies and guys, because they're recommending their quilters, come in and they quilt, and they stay there for 3 to 4 days. In different groups.
That's a vacation rental, but that was also a retail establishment.
But I'm not doing that.
That's what I'm asking, because I read in the emails, I thought you said you were doing a quilt shop and you were doing basically
No, we're
vacation
doing
rental.
quilt retreat.
Not
No.
Okay, that was my confusion, is I thought we were trying to both be a retail establishment
No.
and a vacation rental, and I'm like, you gotta pick one or the other.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
so-
I'm not.
Okay.
Back on that. Now, what the city of Van Alstyne has approved, as well as the state of Texas, back a couple years ago, was the new building code. And because it is a vacation rental, it is still considered a business. Though not a retail business, it is a business. Think about when you go to the beach and stuff like
No,
that.
I have
Yeah.
vacation rentals, so
Yeah.
I
So
can understand what you're going through
But it
there.
didn't start off as a house. It started off as a commercial. It started off as a commercial building. So, yes, if we were to answer Teddy Ann's question, if the city council were to vote to grant a variance to the adopted city code, and something were to happen, then the individuals on the council could be held liable for that incident because we parted with the city code. The city insurance would not cover our decision. So if I make a motion and I vote with the city code and something happens, our insurance will cover that. If we were to vote for a variance, and that variance is granted, and then something happens, especially in a life safety case, then each individual can be held liable because the city insurance and the city attorney will not defend us because we went off reservation. We went away from the codes that were adopted previous to us. I think that's the biggest issue right there.
But that's because she's asking for a PD. How come we can't do this as a residential? Because then it wouldn't have that requirement?
It's a request for a PD.
You can't have overnight
Why
stays.
It's
would
a
it request for a
PD with
PD?
a base of a CBD, according to the,
I don't know.
it's under the CBD.
I know it is right now.
No,
Can we
it
not
states
have
it here.
resident within
It
CBD?
says,
I know we can, because we got some.
it says with the base zoning of a PD with a base zoning of central business district. So it's both.
I got what they're asking for, and I guess I'm still a little annoyed with the city because we don't have representation explaining why those chosen options. I mean, personally, I'm fine with a vacation rental there, as long as it's a residence and it's treated as such. But I have no idea why PD with a base of CBD is chosen. And I got nobody here to tell me why.
I could, from,
Why?
well, because they don't, their application doesn't comply strictly down the line of CBD, so you go to a PD to get some variations in some of the, in this case,
Back up to the first thing you said. What was the first thing you said? It doesn't follow,
it doesn't,
Follow either
it
one
won't meet,
completely.
yeah, it doesn't follow the CBD zoning to the extent that it does. So
Okay,
what,
that makes
so if you
sense.
ask for a variance in that kind of zoning, that's when you do a PD to change one or two of the requirements to match what you're trying to do. And you keep the base underlying zoning, but then you have, the PD only means that there's a variance or two that's being requested.
yeah, but look what we've done. We have a residence in the CBD for which now we've been a little overly restrictive because it has to have a base in the CBD. Is that what we've done?
One thing I know, again, you're right, the city attorney actually did
is that
advise
right?
us to do it that way. Because we had talked, and Jennifer's been very helpful, she said, let the city attorney determine that. And so that's who determined, this is how we go about it.
She's not here either.
And so that's where that
No,
came from.
and you're absolutely right. No, what you were advised upon is right. What Lynn is saying is correct. It's, the zoning is CBD, the PD makes the exceptions to the CBD.
I got that, but here's the quandary. I'm not opposed to what they're trying to do, but what they want to do, we've now made it onerous because we're requiring,
It's not onerous. It's-
well, I tend to feel that it's onerous. Personally, I think having to put that in the house is, I could have done without it. From a vacation rental perspective, only because you could take a vacation rental and go a block over, and you wouldn't have to put a sprinkler system.
Is this like a bed and breakfast?
No,
No.
because we are not going to live there.
It's full-time residence is the difference on that.
It's not a full-time residence.
Right,
They
it's
can-
just a
they can
rental
rent it for
property
30
that
days.
stays. Yeah, but I'm just saying, if they went 2 blocks over, they wouldn't have this, right? So it's because it's the location in the CBD?
Yeah, well, that plus 2 blocks over, if it's zoned C1 commercial, then that would be allowed. If it's zoned residential, then you'd need to come in and get the special requirements to allow the retreat. So
You could do a vacation rental, you couldn't do a retreat.
or commercial rent.
You could do a vacation rental if it was in a residential section.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, and you wouldn't have to have a sprinkler system, correct?
If it's in a residential, they'd have to, I'm not familiar with the fire codes
Okay,
much.
you
but-
don't have to do a vacation rental, doesn't, if you're in a residential section, it's a house. You don't have to do that. So here's my problem. If she wasn't in the CBD, we wouldn't make her do this. But because of the location of that house, we are now saying you have to put in the sprinkler system. Okay, I just want to make sure we're getting down to what the problem is.
Well, and
Because we're kind of, because of our ordinances, because of that house, we're kind of cutting our nose off to spite our face potentially. Because I think it would be an appropriate use, but we can't do it because it's zoned CBD. So we have to go
Well-
to PD to get you
This
the
will be number
variance.
2 places that have tried to go into that and not been allowed in the same exact building.
Right.
Because of the same reason.
And the reason to do, again, the reason to do the PD is the special ordinance and not change the base zoning, because if this tenant leaves, or this owner leaves,
Right.
the base zoning remains.
Yep.
And so, and the reason the city attorney probably recommended a PD was to leave the base zoning alone, so you're not doing spot zoning inside the CBD.
Okay, so is everybody clear on what our quandary and our problem is?
Yeah.
Because, you know, we've got somebody that wants to put something in there, and I'm all for it, but how do we get out of the fact? Other than saying, okay, if you want to be in that property, you're going to have to put in a sprinkler system, which is a pretty pricey thing. I've had to do it. It is not cheap by any means. I feel that that's onerous. So,
All right, so I'm not sure we're going to resolve this tonight, but if anyone wants to postpone the action for an indefinite.
no, I think we owe them, yeah, and we owe them a discussion, because this is costing them money, and it's causing us the loss of hotel tax. They're gonna pay hotel taxes. We're gonna lose revenue, they're gonna lose a property, and I think we need to take the responsibility for figuring out what we're gonna do.
This is also discussed as number 5. Right now, we cannot take any action
Correct.
because this is a public hearing.
So we can discuss in the next session.
We got a clarification on the gas. They were removed a long time ago.
Do you have the date of that residence?
Now, Ms. Tillett, whoever she is, I'm sure she's a fine lady, is the one that witnessed them. When they bought this place, they dug way, way down into the ground.
Ms.
And-
Tillett?
No, Ms. Tillett witnessed the tanks being removed years and years ago.
Okay, I'll give her a call. Thank you.
Okay. That'd be great. Would y'all like for the owner to come? She can be here in just a few minutes if you need her.
What is the detriment to having an empty fuel tank underneath your porch?
It is a requirement, there used to be across the street from me, the wagon property thing. Before that property could be sold, those tanks had to be removed.
Well,
All
it's been
tanks
sold 3
around
times
town
since then,
have had to be removed. They were all storage tanks for different things.
But it's changed hands several times since then, right? Because that was like,
I think it's only changed hands. I don't know the years, no.
Yeah, Lynn.
On that, if there is a tank there, they can have a test, they can go out and have a geotechnical testing firm go out.
I mean, it's really simple. I
Yeah.
mean, the add-on had architectural plans, depending on the geotech, you drop the piers down. Any pier driller wouldn't have gone through a tank because of the void form. So if they put 30-foot piers
They put in
or
brand
40-foot
new-
piers,
yeah.
all you'd have to do is figure out the pier layout and you're done.
And there's a test, they can go out and do some test holes, and we can find out if the tank's there or not. I mean,
If they've already put piers in the property, trust me, that's already been done.
Yeah.
They don't put, you don't put a pier in the ground unless you've already done it.
Yeah, right.
So just move on past the tanks, unless you can, for sure they're there.
All right, anything further? This period.
I would like to say one thing. This is another instance, in my opinion, that we have a wealth of knowledge of people here. We've got the city manager who has the fire background. We have the city engineer that knows all the details around structures and whatnot. We have a city attorney who has made a ruling on this thing. All of this knowledge is here, and it's just coming around here at the last minute. These people have been trying to get this property, just like he said, for
90 days.
90 days. Probably more than that. They were looking at it before then. Okay? During that time, if this stuff was discussed, why was it not discussed with the proposed buyer and the owner and the realtor? All of this stuff could have been brought to a head before now. These things could have been worked out. They could have made a decision if it's required, which I'm still a little dumbfounded, because our building, it was required to have sprinklers if it was 6,000 square feet, and this is saying it's 4,033. That doesn't add up either. But if that's the way it is, that's fine. That should have been brought to these people's attention, and we wouldn't be wasting their time for the last 90 days, and them thinking that they're going to come here and get an approval. Okay? It's not fair to them, and we're also proving that we are not small business friendly because we are not trying to help them. We're telling them no and giving them reason after reason after reason why we can't do it. So, how do we resolve that? We need to put our heads together and figure out how we can start helping people instead of telling them no. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
There'll be more discussion later.
All right, that's all right. We'll move on to public hearing item number 3. Conduct a public hearing to consider testimony regarding various text amendments to the city's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 46, zoning in quotations, which includes but is not limited to amending Article 1 in general, quote unquote, Section 43-3 definitions, quote unquote, to add certain terms, amending Article 2 zoning district and regulations, quote unquote, Section 46-44-96, quote, off-street parking, loading, and drive-through requirements, to add additional parking regulations, amending Article 3, quote, use of land and buildings, unquote, Section 46-125, quote, table of uses, unquote, to amend the Table 5C, or to amend use Table 5C for, quote, office, retail, commercial, and special uses. Here's the important thing, to add, quote, recreational and sports store, unquote, using and amending Section 46-151, special uses, quote, unquote, to add additional regulations related to recreational and sports store use. And this was brought about because within the last few months we found that we didn't have a definition or a use that would allow a gun shop. And so what's happened here is an ordinance has been proposed that would allow us to have a recreational and sports store in the town, which would include a gun shop and a gun repair shop. So that's what this is all about. Is there any public, any comments, any questions? Anyone wish to present on this item?
I think this has been done 3 months ago. Other questions?
Anyone? All right.
What's the question?
Tiffany's question was, why couldn't this been done when you still had a chance to get that stored into the city and the business income into our tax base? Why is it after you run off the business that you're going to change to and amend this stuff?
That I couldn't tell you.
That's a valid question though, right?
Yeah, but I believe I looked at the timeline. They started in
May the 5th.
May, okay, and it went to P&Z that May meeting, right? But they didn't work it out then, they worked it out, the wording in June. And then,
It missed the publication.
no, I didn't
Is
think
that
it-
right, Jennifer?
I thought they
believe
came
so.
up, P&Z did it in June.
Yes, but then there was but Jennifer, wasn't there a publication date that it missed? Even though you submitted it, it was not printed? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's where we lost a month, is because it didn't make the publication.
But it took 3 months for them to change the wording on mine, and I was an existing business. So why is this a precedent that it takes 3 months to get something changed that shouldn't have been that way in the first place?
It takes 1 month to get P&Z, it takes another month to get to us.
Is there a way to streamline that
months.
process?
And then you've got to have
Special
all your
meetings.
public notices.
Yeah, special meeting, or public notices, then special meeting.
Just
And
like
then it
it's
appears our goof
streamlined
was
a
we
little
missed the
bit.
publication.
I think this did take too long. I think
It did.
occasionally we're going to run across uses. Maybe the best way to handle this is to go through a good-sized yellow pages from Sherman or Denison and go through and make sure that we have all the possible uses listed and definitions for those uses. And that's not truly preposterous. That would be, I mean, we are running into occasions where we just don't have a use listed, we don't have a definition for that use, and it does slow down the process.
So there was no other use listed anywhere in all of our stuff that this could have been categorized under, I guess.
Hold on.
I
We
guess
did it in 2003, and we basically went through like a phone book type thing. We tried to list everything in 2003 when the full comprehensive plan was redone. Whether there's a place, you can find a place.
This is close to my heart because, well, it's gun school. Here is, so, and we had the same conversation on the phone. The federal government regulates gun sales. The state doesn't have anything to do with it, the federal government does. If you're gonna store black powder, it's an explosive, so you have to talk to the man over there with the badge and make sure that he does that. If you're gonna sell fully automatic weapons, you gotta talk to the other man with the badge and the gun to make sure that you can do that. But the federal government regulates gun sales. So as far as I'm concerned, guns are no different than any other commodity. It should have just been retail sales and moved on down the road.
That's my feeling as well.
And it is though. It was put under office, retail, commercial, and special uses, but we had to add the wording to cover this.
But no, when the man filled out the form, he put it under gun manufacturing because he wanted to build AR-15s. Now, that's not.
That's assembly, that's not really manufacturing.
Correct.
Manufacturing is machining.
Correct.
Or actually tooling, and he's not doing any of that. He's
Correct.
assembling.
But-
All right, hang on.
Correct, but he-
Wait, everybody, please hold up. Now, you got people just speaking up, and I'm not upset about it, but you need to be recognized. And if you have a comment, then make a comment, but let's not have argument back and
But
forth.
you're absolutely correct, and that's the same conversation we had. It is assembly. Now, if you put manufacturing down, it falls under the definition of manufacturing. And if all y'all that have been coming to all these city council meetings, and God bless you for standing up and listening to this rap, we are bound by the definition of what's put on the paper. So in a public hearing, or if we make a motion, we are bound by what is said. So in this thing, so to go back to, and I was close, but as an example, this says a waiver to any fire code requirement. We talked about sprinklers, but what it says is any fire code requirement, which means even if we voted on it, she wouldn't have to go in there and put alarms or smoke detectors or heat detectors or fire extinguishers or anything. She can tell us, oh yeah, we're gonna do that. But if we vote on it, she doesn't have to. But we only can vote on what it says. And going back to the gun store, he put manufacturing, which threw it under a different date.
But why, when you go to the city hall, don't they say, oh, well, we couldn't find it on this, but here's a way around that, so you can circumvent this 3 months of bull crap?
Yeah, or again,
Correct,
why wouldn't
because-
somebody tell him that, listen, are you really manufacturing or?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah.
If you want to be recognized, raise your hand. If one of the council members wants to call on you to listen to your comment, then we can do that, but let's not argue back and forth.
Mayor, I don't think we're arguing. I think we're discussing, so let's finish it out.
This is good freedom of speech. So, yes, So we can,
Hey,
It's a regulated public meeting and we're discussing. So as long as we're going one at a time, I think we're going fine.
so
I do have something I'd like to say. I'm James Woods.
There we go.
Now, may I speak? Is there not a city out there that's been through this before? Could we ask for help and see if they would be willing to say, hey, here's our playbook, this is what we have in ours. Why don't y'all take it, copy it, and make it your own, so now you have variances for everything.
And when we built them originally, we did that. It's just that we haven't revised our ordinances en masse since 2003. We're doing them as things arise. So, and then when it does come up, I would expect that what they're doing is going and finding out how other people heard them more, obviously.
Well, I was just thinking, if you've done that, it would fast track some of this, and some of the headache of people not getting not getting labeled as what they need to be, would be out of the way.
Well, I think the comment was very valid from Councilman Jaska that we have an issue procedurally within City Hall.
I think Ms. Salmon had a comment.
I think part of the problem is what you just stated. We don't address it till it comes up. We should already be prepared for it before it ever comes up before the council or before the PDC. And when we do it in such a manner that until you bring us the problem, we don't do anything about it. And that is where the delay is. The other part is we're sitting here discussing something and the audience doesn't have the full information of what we're talking about, and they don't have the information that we have. Mine is gun shops including firearm repair and restoration is what's here. And that doesn't bother me. I think that's fine, but it says including motorized recreation vehicle sales and services, including cycle sales and services, and excluding shooting ranges and galleries used for the discharge using live ammo. But when it goes back up here and says there would be no motorized recreational vehicle sales and services, including cycle sales and service, we're going to do one thing, but then we're going to, in our definition, we don't have anything that gives someone the ability to sell a motorized, to have a business with a motorized, a recreational vehicle sales. So is this another issue where we just do this, but we don't address this till someone comes up and they want to sell, they want to put in a business for a motorized recreational vehicle? That's my question. Mr. Klum, did you want to be recognized?
No, ma'am, I'm good.
Thank you.
It's good dialogue, by the way, and I'm not trying to be argumentative. I just want to know.
I understand because you do not, you don't see this, but I do understand the problem. It also states that recreational and sports stores, one parking space for each 200 square feet of floor area use. Do we have that? One parking space for each 200 square feet of floor area used. Lynn, are we making something that's impossible?
That is consistent with a retail shop or somebody like that. Now, if they locate in the CBD, that parking requirement is waived and falls under the CBD, which is the street parking.
So this only applies if they're out of the central business district, right, and they put it in, say they wanted to put it in on 75.
75 to commercial, yep. If they put it there, they would be required to have
the parking space.
Yeah, we count on every commercial.
Anywhere.
Anywhere.
No exception. You're not coming in with a double standard thing on this.
The only exceptions we would ever give is if the body of the council votes to give them a variance in the parking. Otherwise, they have to meet the code.
anything further on this item? See no hands, move on to public hearing. Item number 4, conduct a public hearing if there are comments for or against the proposed fiscal year 2017-2018 City of Van Alstyne operating budget. Any questions or comments from the crowd? All right, any questions or comments among council?
Yes. If we have questions, do we do it now, or do we wait for consider and take action on number 7? At which time?
If you want to if you want to have any public discussion on your concern, you can do it now. If you want to wait until we're to take action, then that's okay too.
Will we be allowed to discuss this ordinance before there is a motion on number 7?
We'll be able to make a motion in a second and then have discussion.
So there has to be a motion on number 7 and a second before we have a discussion. So, yes, I think we might need some discussion. I want to make sure that I did not get a copy of the parks. I can't, I don't think, Chief Barnes is subbing tonight, so I won't ask you that. But I didn't get a copy of the Parks and Recreation budget where it would show that the $100,000 that was in there was removed. Also, what else was there? I had a question on agenda item number 4, item number 6714 on contract services. It was reduced. Last year it was $10,500. This year it's $5,000. Is this for? It's for demolition expenses. What is that?
When we have dilapidated homes, that's what that budget item is for, is if we have a dilapidated home, so that we can go ahead and demolish it once there's been adequate notice and everything.
Do we get this money back, or if we're going to demolish something that is not up to standard, we just paid to have this person's property demolished, but they still have the property, so actually, are we just cleaning it off, or do we get a refund, or what?
There's typically a lien placed on the property, so when it does sell, then the city's reimbursed for that expense.
So if it doesn't sell, we don't get our money back?
Correct.
Or there can be a lien anyway,
Yeah.
with or without the sale, there can still be a lien. Whether the lien is ever paid or not, that's another thing. All right. Anything further on this public hearing? Nothing?
Yes. Oh, go ahead. I'm through. Go ahead. Suzanne is.
I don't think I had discussion on it, Teddy. I think I was going to go ahead and put my motion when you came around to it.
You can't do that. I do have another concern, and that is under expenses, under 6210. I would like to see it removed because it is clothing supplies. I would like the money that we have for clothing supplies spent on the departments that go out that need to be identified. This is clothing supplies for the girls at City Hall. I would prefer that money be spent for the Department of Public Works. You need to be identified when you go to someone's home, our police department, and EMS, our fire department. But in City Hall, they do not go outside of that building. We all know that they are City Hall employees, and to buy them shirts, city shirts, I feel like this is a waste.
Anything further?
No.
All right, then we'll commence with the open meeting portion. And item number 5, consider and take any action necessary regarding a request for an ordinance by the owner/agent of approximately 0.132 acre tract of land from a central business district zoning to planned development with a base zoning of CBD or central business district with special event center and overnight guests, entire home rental to guests with no special event as allowed additional uses. Also, a waiver of any fire code requirements such as installation of a fire sprinkler system to maintain the current historical integrity. The property is described as OTP Van Alstyne Edition, Block 26, Lot 11 and 12, more commonly known as 120 East Marshall Drive, formerly known as 101 East Marshall Drive. Any discussion among council?
I did have one more additional thing that I saw on the Part 1, purpose and intent, in relation to the fire code. It says central business. The purpose and intent of the PD is to allow 2 additional uses in addition to those allowed right in the CBD, and waive the 2009 International Fire Code requirement for occupancy type 1 or type R-1 to install a fire sprinkler system compliant with NFPA-13. So, are we talking about the whole fire code, or are we just talking about that one requirement?
The way that reads, it's...
I get what the agenda item says, but I'm not
No,
seeing
I'm
that in
looking
the
at the
actual
ordinance
PD.
too. I'm looking at the ordinance also. You just read it. There's a comment that says, as well as the accompanying fire alarm system. You're looking at part 1, page 2 of 6 on the, okay, that's where I'm looking. So it sounds to me like they're asking in this ordinance to waive the 2000 International Fire Code requirement for occupancy type R1, including fire sprinkler systems and fire alarm systems.
So at this point in the process, are we as a council able to amend this portion of the PD requiring, or that says, as well as the accompanying fire alarm system for monitoring? Are we, because I mean, that's smoke detectors essentially, right? No. What is that? Can you explain that to me?
Yes.
Or anybody at the panel?
You can call on someone if you like.
I just would like to clarify, I'm sure you all know this, but we met with the planning and zoning and came here and they voted on, it was fine the way that we wrote that. And they said, absolutely, we understand what you're trying to do and we feel that's adequate. Like I said, I'm not, this building, I don't want it to be unsafe either. I mean, I'm not, believe me, we don't want to get sued any more than you all want to get sued. But you know, and we're going to have fire alarms and fire extinguishers. And I don't know if you're familiar with that house, but there's actually 4 exterior doors, which is, to me, important. It's got 2 stairs, one in the front and the back. Again, I think that's very important. So I feel that it's safe that way again. But again, it was the planning and zoning that said, oh no, we understand what you're saying, and they waived that. So we've already been through them. And just FYI, so I mean, I'm sure that's in your records, but I wanted to point that out. So.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
The monitoring, when you have a fire alarm system with a sprinkler system? I really do not like these things.
You don't really need it.
Too bad.
I blame you for this. So, when you have a fire suppression system, it has to be monitored by a monitoring company.
Gotcha.
So when the alarm goes off, whether it's a flow or a tamper or a smoke,
fire department comes out.
It dispatches the fire department.
Anything else among council?
Yeah, don't move on, because I feel like we owe them something from this because it's a problem property. And I feel like, let's discuss it, and I mean, what kind of options are we looking at here? Because we want the tax revenue, but we don't want to provide variances to safety.
If I could make some suggestion, you may want, I know there's some concern on the council regarding litigation or possible litigation. It may be an alternative to go into executive session and call the city attorney so that the concerns that you may have can be answered, so that y'all can have an answer tonight that may make you feel comfortable with regarding some, because obviously my understanding is that the city attorney is the one that drafted the agenda. So we can, under 551-071, we could go into executive session real quick, call the city attorney on the phone. If y'all feel comfortable about having some questions answered.
I think it's going to take more conversation than what we want to conduct over the phone. I think it'll be a lengthy conversation.
I want to get this done tonight. This is a problem property, and these folks have spent a lot of time, and we're passing on tax, and they're expending money. We owe it to them to do something with this tonight. And if the attorney can be reached, and she can provide some clarification, I think we owe it to get some more insight. Not that I like these 6-hour meetings,
Could we, before we go into some other session, we need to know, number one, if we can even get in contact with her.
Yeah.
And this would be, it would be under, I guess, an emergency because it's not on their agenda. The first thing I would ask her is, can we legally do it?
We can get a hold of her. I spoke to her earlier today to make sure that she was available just in case something came up. So she is available to be contacted, and it's under law that it can be required to do.
I do have one more question. And that is, what is your objection to putting in a fire, the fire sprinkler system? All the businesses that we have in the CBD have been required to do this. Anybody who bought it, who has an apartment upstairs, they have always done it. And I'm really interested as why you so object to it.
Have you been in the house, ma'am?
Oh,
It's a very
I've
historic
been in
house.
the house.
To me, we're buying it for that. It's a beautiful historic house.
But this can come down through the attic upstairs.
If you're gonna have water lines in the house, it's just,
It can be done. I have a house I had to do this to. I will say it's very expensive. It's not the most attractive, but I would think that within your walls and ceilings, you can run the proper pipes.
I'm gonna make a motion real quick that we take a 10-minute recess so that we can call the city attorney, get her advice, and reconvene in 10 minutes.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Yeah, we can do it. Yes.
Second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor of a recess? 10-minute recess, just to see if we can have this.
I think the order should be an executive session that you're going to go into under 551.071.
Well, I think the
Is the
motion
10-minute
If you're going to be
recess, just to make
contacting,
sure we can get her?
if you're going to be contacting the city attorney.
It's a 10-minute recess for you to make sure we can get her.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so we still have a second for a motion to allow Chief Barnes to go and make sure we can, to get her. Just a 10-minute recess. And I second it. So we still have a vote on it.
All in favor? Okay, we have 3 in favor, all opposed? 2 opposed. The motion to take a little recess carries, and so the time The time is 7:31, and so we'll be in recess until 7:41. All right, I guess we're done with our recess a little early. I have 7:39 p.m., and so we'll go back into the open meeting. However, I believe we're going to try to do our executive session quickly. We'll see how that goes. And I think that the council is possibly going to go over to the PD and have our executive session over there so that you all don't have to leave. But I don't have, well, one place or another, we'll go for an executive session. And so is there I think I need a motion to go into executive session regarding item number 5 in our open meeting.
I'll make the motion to go to executive session.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? We have a second. All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous, so we're going to try to make this quick. And the time now is 7:41. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to read this verbatim. Okay, they're going to walk away while I do this. Y'all will wish we were doing the same. If during the course of a meeting covered by this notice, the city council should determine that a closed or executive meeting or session of the city council or consultation with the attorney for the city should be held or is required, then such closed or executive meeting or session or consultation with attorney as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Section 551.001, etc., will be held by the City Council at that date, hour, and place given in this notice, as the City Council may conveniently meet in such closed or executive session or consult with the attorney for the city concerning any and all subjects and for any and all purposes permitted by the Act, including but not limited to the following sanctions and purposes. Texas Government Code Section 551.071, private consultation with the attorney for the city regarding any item on the agenda. And that's the one we're going to do, so I'm not going to bother reading the other two. We are going into an executive session in accordance with Section 551.071 at this time, and it is 7:42. We'll just be back as soon as we can.
It's recording.
All right, we adjourned the executive session at 8:06 p.m. and now we're going to reconvene the open meeting, and the time is 8:08 p.m. All right, and let's see now. Basically, well, let's see now. All right, let's have a motion. Anybody care to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve this ordinance of the city of Alstyne amending the zoning ordinance to change the existing zoning classification from CBD, Central Business District, PD Plan Development, with the base zoning of CBD, Central Business District, with the additional use on the tract of land described as off Alstyne additional lot 26, lot 2, and 12 containing 0.132 acres of land, more commonly known as 120 East Marshall Drive, formerly known as 101 East Marshall Drive, in the city of Alstyne, Grayson County, Texas, providing, repealing, saving, and severability clauses, providing a penalty, providing an effective date, and providing the interpretation of the caption hereof, with the exception that we will eliminate under Part 1, purpose and intent. It will only read the purpose and intent of this PD is to allow 2 additional uses in addition to those allowed by right in the CBD Central Business District. The rest of that paragraph will be eliminated, and it is the one to waive the 2009 International Fire Code. That will be omitted from this ordinance. The other omission will be under Parks and Use Regulations, second paragraph, and then also is the one that reads, in order to maintain the current historical integrity of the building currently existing on the property, the 2009 International Fire Code requirements for occupancy to install. This paragraph will be omitted. Other than that, the ordinance stands as written with these 2 omissions. Effective now.
Was everybody able to hear and understand that? Okay. Basically, what we've done is we've approved the, oh, I'm sorry, we haven't done it yet. We have a motion. Do we have a motion?
Yes, that's my motion.
And a second. All right, all in favor of, oh, that's right. Pardon me, you're, discussion.
So, all that legal, explain, we need somebody to explain exactly what Teddy Ann read.
It's that the ordinance is passed with the exception of the fire code, and we will not make an exception for that. The fire code will be required. All the requirements for the occupancy will be required. That part is out. We do not waiver any fire code requirements such as the installation of a fire sprinkler system. That has been eliminated from the ordinance, so therefore there is no waiver on that.
But the uses are.
Yeah.
Yes, the uses, the ordinance stands as written with that only exception. Everything else is approved.
All right, any more discussion on council? See no hands. We have a motion and we have a second. And we've had our discussion. All in favor? All right, it is unanimous. And so the item carries. The zoning request, the uses are all approved. But the waiver of fire code requirements are not, they will not be waived. You know, it would, rather than argue.
I just had a question.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you know how much that costs? I'm just curious. I got one estimate of like $6,000. Is
That would be really good, and I'd be surprised if it was that small.
Yeah, well, that's what initially, when I said something, I said, that's just too expensive. You know, that's just way too much money to walk in the door, you know, to end up with, I think that's what I said, starting at $6,000. You know, you're talking a lot of money, I understand, you know, that's a lot of money.
Well, nonetheless, the ordinance is passed with the exception of the fire code waivers.
They haven't worked. Well, planning and zoning approved that. I guess I'm curious as to how that, then what, why?
They advise us, they can tell us that they like it or they don't like it.
Okay.
But it's up to the city council to approve it.
Okay.
All right. Let's see now. Okay, now we've had, I thought we haven't moved on to item number 6 in the open meeting, so I'm going to read that now. Consider and take any action necessary regarding various text amendments to City's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 46, zoning, which includes but is not limited to amending Article 1 in general. That's the title of the article. Section 46-3, entitled Definitions, add certain terms, amending Article 2, zoning districts and regulations, Section 46-96, which includes off-street parking, loading, and drive-through requirements, to add additional parking regulations, amending Article 3, use of land and buildings, Section 46-125. I know this is all gobbledygook, but I have to read it word for word. Table of uses, to amend use table 5C for office, retail, commercial, and special uses to add recreational and sports store use, to add that use, recreational and sports store. And amending section 46-151, special uses, to add additional regulations related to recreational and sports store use. All right. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve as stated.
All right. So moved. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
All right. We have a second, a motion and a second. Any more discussion among council?
I still have a discussion on this, and that is the off-road sports motorized vehicles. I would like to see us recommend to the PNC that we do not wait until this comes up, that this issue be addressed next on this with something written in there regarding this, because this says that there is no use for, that we have, this does not cover those usage, and I would like to see something that does cover that usage before it comes before the council.
I'm sure they would take that under advisement and consider that. I have to say, even the phone book trick isn't going to, the yellow pages, they're not going to cover everything that could ever happen or every business that's ever going to happen. However, that would be, it is time to go back through the phone book again. And I'm sure planning and zoning would consider Ms. Salmon's recommendation.
Good, because in here it says, it specifically states it does not cover those two issues.
All right, so any further discussion? I believe we have a motion and a second, is that right? Okay, all in favor? It is unanimous. Okay, so item number 6 passes. Item number 7, consider and take any action necessary regarding an ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2017-2018 City of Van Alstyne operating budget. This will have to be a record vote, but I guess we'll have to have a motion, a second, and approval to take the vote. Is there a motion?
Yes.
Call the vote.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to recommend that we approve the budget, except for the following instances that I would like removed from the budget. I would like the permit clerk role removed. I would like the expenses for the City Hall shirts removed. I would like all references or funds allotted to the special use path Phase 2 removed from Parks Department. And I'd like any allocation of funds for raises be approved by council before given.
All right, we have a motion. Does anyone, will anyone second the motion as made?
I'll second.
By Ms. Kroll.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion among council?
I do have a concern about the approving raises. Are you talking about a merit-based system, or are you just talking about somebody Frank coming to us and saying, hey, I just need you to sign off on this? What all are you asking for in
I
that?
want the rationale before it's given so that we have the ability to agree to it before they're given out. And right now, we have no idea how that's being allotted. We were not told that it was across the board. We really don't know. So I'm saying before they're given, I'm not removing the funds. I'm saying they cannot be dispersed until we know the allocation methodology and we approve it.
Also, I had requested in an email to Mr. Baker that he provide us with not only the salary, but what raises were given last year, if it was another 3% across the board or whatever it was. And this is one way that we would know at a later date instead of that it would come before council.
I don't know if this answers that. I recall in the last meeting, Mr. Baker answered that question, said 3% across the board. I don't know if that alleviates some of that or not.
And you know what? Because it doesn't, all I'm saying is until it's dispersed, part of approving this budget is saying that we should be able to get that in executive session. Well, if executive's the appropriate place, but we should get that before they're dispersed.
Thank you.
But the overall money of the budget is not going to change.
Not my requested, the overall money will not change,
The o-
correct.
The
But
overall
the removal
money,
of those expenses will be.
okay. That motion puts removal of expenses.
Correct. Those specific expenses.
Correct.
Are you looking for a bucket to be?
No,
mentioned?
but we raised the tax rate
Yep.
to cover that budget. We did not go with the effective rate, and we met in the middle with the removal of 60 for the two things that brought it down. Okay? Now we're removing more.
Okay, so
So.
I will
the-
amend my request to
amount-
say, put those to the rainy day fund, which got removed, and I really didn't like that idea. So I want to juggle the money around from buckets. I want it taken out of here, and if you need a place for it to go, because it probably should have a place, then put it in the rainy day fund that got removed.
Okay,
Do you
but
want me to amend my request to say where I want it to go then?
I don't know, because,
I know where you're going, and I'm not lowering the budget.
correct.
I don't want those specific line expenditures to occur, and I won't approve the budget unless they're removed.
Right. We're changing the budget here.
No,
with
we're
your-
not.
With your, no,
No.
I mean, we're not changing the bottom, the bottom line, the bottom dollar, but we are changing the budget, the way the funds are allocated.
Correct.
And so, well, I don't know. All right, we have a motion and a second.
Yep.
All right, any more discussion? All right, all in favor of the budget as stated by, and amendments as stated by Ms. Kroll? All right, we have
Record vote.
3 and, oh, I'm sorry, I have to take a record vote. Okay, let me do this then. Ms. Kroll, is it aye or nay?
Aye.
Your amended budget?
Aye.
All right, Mr. Thomas?
What is the actual proposal that's on the table right now? The actual
So you
motion.
have to read it again.
Approve the budget, except for removal of these particular expense items, which is removal of the permit clerk roll, removal of the shirt expense for City Hall, removal of all special use path expenditures from the Parks Department, and any allocation of funds for raises be approved by council before given.
And where do the funds go?
And all the funds can then be taken from those and put towards, I forget the official name of the rainy day fund,
The reserve.
the reserve.
Nay?
Mr. Jaska? Aye or nay?
Aye.
Ms. Salmon? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Cliff?
Nay, due to the permit clerk.
So I believe we have 3 votes aye and 2 votes nay. And so the budget as amended by Ms. Kroll is adopted. All right, number 8, consider and take any action necessary regarding authorizing the chief of police to apply for a criminal justice program grant for rifle ballistic vests for law enforcement officers.
I make a motion that we authorize the chief of police to apply for a criminal justice program grant for rifle ballistic vests for law enforcement officers.
I second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I see no hands. All in favor? It is unanimous. So, Chief, you're authorized.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that it's clear regarding this grant. This is the one that Governor Abbott signed. This is only for rifle resistant vests. It won't take the place of the 3 vests that we're going to be replacing next year.
Item number 9, consider and take any action necessary on an ordinance amending Chapter 36, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places by amending Article 7, Right-of-Way Management, to add a new Division 7 entitled Use of Public Rights-of-Way by Network Providers, in parentheses, Right-of-Way Management, adopting provisions regulating the physical use, occupancy, and maintenance of city rights-of-way by wireless network providers in accordance with Chapter 284 of the Texas Local Government Code, and renumbering the division entitled Miscellaneous as Division 8.
I make a motion as such.
All
I
right.
second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion among council?
Yes. After reading through this, it refers to everything in the historical district and design districts. I was not aware that we had a design and historical district. We have a central business district, but I don't believe we have yet designated a historical district, have we? You're the only one who can answer this question. Has the PNC, has a historical district been designated at this time?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge. How about a design district?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge. So we're going to approve something for the districts that we don't have.
Yes,
I
I would.
don't understand.
Yeah, you're on.
What's up, Lynn?
We also have a precedence. We also, in our zoning categories, we have a thoroughfare district that is defined but not designated.
Right.
So none of this is, we're passing this, but we don't have these things.
But when you're ready to have them, it will automatically cover.
Hey, Teddy Ann, with more and more cellular service and wireless being offered throughout, this is a step in the future and looking forward. That's all.
I understand that, and I really think it's a great thing. I just want to make sure that it covers, when it says historical districts, and we don't have it, I think we should be prepared for it. And I like the way it is written, and it talks about the installation in the residential areas, and I think that's really important. So, but I just wanted to inquire about the districts that I didn't, if we had a district and I didn't know about it.
It's still just old Van Alstyne, it's not historic Van Alstyne.
Now, we have a billboard that says, welcome to historical Van Alstyne, you can get that out on that.
All right.
Motion and a second.
We do have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion?
I wanted to ask a question where it says we collect revenue off of this. And I don't guess there's anybody here that can tell us where the revenue goes. Like which fund?
It goes, we have a franchise fee fund that pays for maintenance of right-of-ways and things like that when the utility, whether it's GCEC or Encore or Encore or Atmos, they pay a franchise fee every year to utilize the right of ways to help maintenance. So that it'll go to that fund.
Okay, thank
So
you.
we have a bucket, but we don't know if it's actually been budgeted for.
Right.
And we don't know when they're putting these in, or do they already exist? Yeah. So,
I think this is just a requirement.
okay.
All right.
Ready to vote? No more discussion? All right, all in favor? All right, we have 4 in favor, all opposed?
No, we're all in favor. Sorry, we weren't paying attention.
All right, so it is unanimous. All right, item number 10, consider and take any action necessary regarding the appointment of Alicia Kroll to the Van Alstyne Community Development Corporation Board of Directors. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? We have a second. Is there any discussion among council? See no hands. All in favor? Unanimous. Item number 11, consider and take any action necessary regarding the reappointment of Colin Flynn, Robert Lewis, Mark Rock, and Wayne Womack to the Van Alstyne Community Development Corporation Board of Directors. Is there a motion?
I got discussion, I got questions. Oh, I have to wait till a second.
Is there a motion? All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion among council?
Okay, I have discussions. I'd like to know if there's anybody here from CDC who can tell me whether CDC has term limits.
Yeah, we do. Rodney Williams, director. We have 3 consecutive 2 years. They have to be off for a year, then they're eligible to reapply.
Okay, can you tell me for these 4 folks how long they've been on?
Yeah, so Colin Flynn, this will be his 2nd term. Robert Lewis is his 3rd and final term, at least for a year. Mark Rock, 3rd and final term. And Wayne Womack, 2nd term.
Do we advertise for these roles?
We do.
What do we advertise?
I'm sorry, what-
Where do you advertise?
We advertise on our website, Facebook page. I don't know in the past if it's been done with the city. We post it at our office.
And we don't put it in the leader that most of us read?
We don't.
Okay. I would recommend that we do that going forward because I don't read anything in the paper. How many applications did you only get one application?
Literally, we got one. We had one open seat.
My suggestion would be it wasn't advertised very well. And then I'd also like to, and this is going to be my problem, so I will have another motion. I have an issue with folks sitting on multiple boards. I can't believe within 4,000 people that we cannot find somebody else to fill boards, and I have a problem with having one person on multiple boards.
Any more discussion?
I think that in answer to her, this is what the rules and regulations are for the CPC, and therefore, in order to change that, we would have to have an agenda item in the future.
In the future. All right, any more discussion? I see no hands. All in favor? Oh, we have 4 in favor, all opposed? 1 opposed, and so the motion carries. Consider and take any action regarding the reappointment of James Lewis to serve a 2nd term on the Van Alstyne Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right, we have a motion, and is there a second? Okay, we have a second. Any discussion among council?
I think I'm going to make the same comment again. I'm going to ask the same thing. How long has James been on the board? And are there term limits? 2 years. Are there term limits on EDC? 2 terms of 2 years.
So this is his final term.
Okay. And then I also made the comment that I would prefer that we start to try and limit folks to only being on one board.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. All right, item number 13, consider and take any action necessary regarding appointment of David Hibbs to serve a 2-year term on the Van Alstyne Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors beginning in October 2017. Is there a motion?
I'll have a second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, any discussion?
I have a discussion. Why is this beginning in October?
That's our fiscal year.
So you will not, you will be without that board member until then, or you have someone whose term doesn't
That's when
expire?
the terms roll off, they're all associated.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. All right, item number 14, consider and take any action necessary regarding the appointment of Darren Plum to serve a 2-year term on the Van Alstyne Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors beginning in October 2017. Is there,
I'll make a motion.
we have a motion? Is there a second? We have a second. Is there any discussion? I see no hands. All in favor? It is unanimous.
You wrote in now, man.
All right, item number 15, consider and take any action necessary regarding approval of Van Alstyne Economic Development Corporation fiscal year 2017-2018 budget.
I received a request from a citizen to speak on this matter. So I'd like to
We have to
recognize.
have a motion
We'll have a
first.
motion in a second, and then we can have discussion, and you
All right.
can call.
All right, thank you.
All right, so
I'll
is there a
make a
motion?
motion to approve it.
All right, we have a motion to approve it.
I'll
Is there-
second it.
And we have a second. Any discussion?
I would like to, I had a citizen approach me requesting to speak on this topic, so I'd like to recognize Ms. Timberlake.
Yeah, thank you. The actual comment that I have is not directly related to this budget, and so I'll hold my comments for your regular scheduled meeting next week. So
I'd like to comment too. I noticed there's no cash on hand on this, so is EDC bankrupt or did it not make it on here?
No, the board wanted to do it the way you asked me to do it, but also to do it with, just do it at zero-based budget.
Okay, I'm a little disappointed. I really don't feel, and I know I voted to approve it because it's not a big deal. I think this could be a huge improvement if it would be used as indicated. I'm a little disappointed. I'm not seeing the cash on there. To me, if the cash was on here, we'd have a true financial picture of EDC. This seems a little lacking to me, and I know that we spent some hours going over this. So I'm a little disappointed, but I'm not about to pull up the budget the second time around.
It's balanced.
You got a zero budget.
Yeah, I got a zero budget, and I did do quite a bit of cuts to get it down to that zero
Are you happy
balance.
with it? What is EDC?
We have quite a few board members in the audience, actually.
Are y'all happy
Is
with
this
it?
open for discussion?
I didn't know if that
Part
was
of discussion.
May I stand up and say something now? I am happy we are at zero budget, but I'm worried about us being at zero budget and maintenance and repair on our rail spur and stuff like that's gonna go neglected. And we're gonna end up having to come back and ask for money to fix.
So you know what I'm going to tell you? This is why I was disappointed, because if you put your cash position on there, I said you didn't have to be at zero budget, because then we would have seen a full financial picture. You could have discussed the
But
project.
also, as a board,
Because
we
he just told you
recognize
he's
we
going to
do not
come
want to
back.
put our cash on hand to the public.
Why? It's public money.
Because we don't want somebody to come to us and know how much money we have and say, this is what we want. You can't give it to us, we're going elsewhere.
It's public funds. I have a problem with trying to hide public funds. I mean, it is what
We're
it
not
is.
trying to hide it. I'm more than, not trying to hide it
I
whatsoever.
don't hear.
If somebody asks for it in a public record, open record request, one will give it to them. But what we're trying to say is, as a business standpoint, if I'm a business coming to down Alstyne, if I know your cards, I can play ball better than you.
I don't know that that makes it, I don't know that I believe it makes a difference. But the point is, you also just told me that you don't think this is accurate because you're gonna have to come back for the rails program.
If we have to go back for, but we're doing this at your request. That's
No,
all-
no, no,
that's
no,
all
no,
I'm
no,
trying to
no,
get.
no, no, I'm not taking this one over the fence again. I came back and said, this I thought would be very helpful. And we talked about, because Robert and I had big discussions about also being able to demonstrate your cash position, and that's why you would show for the budget that you would be a minus, but you'd be covered by your cash position. I was absolutely fine with that. I knew questions for project spend might come up, but I thought it was perfectly okay. So I did not dictate this to you at all. I said, I think it's good. I think it's much more indicative of how you operate. I did not dictate that you had to do this. I said, I will stand by you, and I think it's a much better form to use.
One final question, we wanted our budget to get denied last time.
Because there were questions, there were other people that thought that you needed to be at zero base.
Y'all wanted us at 0, that's why it was denied, correct?
Not y'all, no.
I wanted to, I'll take it, yeah. I want to see a balanced budget. I want to see a balanced budget on CDC. I want to see a balanced budget across the board, no doubt. Now, how you, to me, not speaking for Ms. Crowe, but here, hiding your cash flow makes perfect sense. Y'all are the most secret, I've said it once, say it again. EDC is the most secret squirrel we've got. Municipalities help each other, we lend a helping hand, except for when it comes to EDC, and it's a cutthroat business when it comes to EDC. They don't help each other at all. Because Hal will take a business from underneath you in a heartbeat. It's bad. So, Timothy, you raised your.
Yeah, actually, okay, so now I do need to speak because I'm the treasurer of the board of the EDC. I was not here for the meeting in which they approved the budget. But what was communicated to me was that you all wanted us at a 0 budget. And, so I communicated with Suzanne when I came back from my vacation and specifically asked her, what did you do to get the budget to 0 budget, which she explained to me. The reason that we had done the budget prior, the way that we did, is historically the way that that budget has always been done. And that is that we list the income items that we expect to receive, and we're very conservative in that because you never know if you're going to lose a large business. So we try to be very conservative in that and come out with a budget that does leave what looks like we're going to have to pull from savings, our savings, to be able to meet that budget. That money was more than covered in our savings account, or we would not have budgeted that way. But in my mind, I am in finance, and I love 0 budgets. I absolutely want to see income and expenses that match each other. But in this case, for the sake of the history of the way the budget had been written, in addition to the fact we knew we could cover those shortfalls potentially, either by excess sales tax income coming in, which is what we would hope would happen, that it would be higher, and historically always has been higher, or that we would have the ability out of our savings account to meet that excess. We wouldn't have presented it to council the way that it was originally presented if not. So I was disappointed when we were asked for a 0-based budget, but this is the way that she did it, and I think you just said it extremely well, and that is that it's not that we don't want public funds to be known or we want to hide anything, but this is a competitive organization, and there does have to be some consideration for that. Thank you for that comment.
I think what comes out of this is there needs to be guidance going forward about what we expect for budgeting, because I really found the prior forms to not be very good, and you had a different concern. So I think the city needs to give a little bit more guidance to these organizations about what we expect the plan to come back. I hear from you all about what you wanted to do with your cash, but I have no view to it. So it's hard to come back and say, yes, we're running at a deficit, and then I have to totally count on your anecdotes about why you're at that. And I'm like taking in information and making an informed decision.
You could also just call Jody on the phone and ask her about
No,
it. You can see
no,
our
this is to be
bank
presented at this public meeting, what it's about. And I want to see it
With-
here,
with
I don't
his-
want to call people.
With his comment though, regarding what we actually have in the bank, what James said makes
I-
sense.
And all respect for Lee, I don't agree with him, okay?
All right.
So, you know, but I made a motion to approve it, I'm fine. What I'm saying is the learning from this is I think we need to talk about what a budget is supposed to look like next year and what we expect from it. Because, you know, maybe it's not released to the public, what you gave me, but I still think I should be able to know that they got cash in the bank, because how do I know how they're operating? Not to mention, you know, some of this, when it came up and we did this, I also found out that we weren't very good at budgeting the prior year. That makes a big difference to me when I look at asking for the same funds again, where last year they weren't spent. So, you know, I'd like to be able to see that perspective and go, why would I approve you for more? And I don't remember what account it was. Why would I approve more of those expenditures when you didn't approve it, when you didn't spend it the prior year? So,
Can I speak to that?
I'd rather not keep going back and forth
Well, I
on it.
know
All
that
I'm saying
for the
is,
sake of the public, you
don't-
made a statement that we can answer to you, and it's not an argument.
no, I didn't ask,
Yeah.
I don't want to
It's just,
discuss
when
it.
you don't spend it in 1 year, then you may be, you know, there may have been reasons it wasn't spent in 1 year. It's very common to roll a budget item forward to the next year, so that's all I want to say.
Okay. And I just don't agree. I think we definitely failed in giving you guidance of what to do. That's why I think the first round did not pass.
Can I just, two comments, real quick. The first comment to that is you are correct. I was given no guidance from the city. I was not given deadlines or timelines, told when to have it to you, no information whatsoever from the city. I didn't even know the city was starting their budget. I just decided we needed to. So you are correct. There needs to be information passed down to the other departments of what their expectations are and when the timelines are. That would be very helpful, but that was not provided. And also, the president of the EDC would like to just address another financial issue while y'all are still on this topic.
Yeah, we are facing a real problem right now, and I'd like to make all of you aware of it.
While you're passing that out, I will make a comment. I agree, and I know what you're talking about, because if you remember, the council did not get a budget until the 1st of August for us to go over, and then that meeting was canceled, and we didn't even get to discuss it until the second week in August, the second Tuesday in August. So I understand that you did not have the guidance, and we did not have the time to look at these budgets that we really should know about. So maybe next year we can start a lot earlier, because August the 1st and then have it canceled is too late even for the council.
Because I want to comply with
Yeah.
the way y'all want it, but I need to.
Yeah, I do. I agree. The timeline is bad. Go right ahead.
Okay, well,
Congratulations.
thank you.
I think.
I think. Okay, what I've put before you is a problem that we're facing. By law, by Texas Local Government Code, the funds, the sales and revenue is supposed to arrive, be given to us in a timely manner, immediately, as a matter of fact. And we have not received the tax money yet. And we don't know why. We've asked, we've gone to City Hall, and we have no check. And this is hampering our activities. We can't pay, you know, it could affect how we pay bills or work our programs. And I'm asking for the council's help in getting our sales and use tax proceeds to us. And according to law, you know, we know that the city gets it by the second Friday, and we still, to this date, and it's 19 days later, we have not received our funds. And I am asking for your help in solving this problem, getting our funds, and also a different procedure perhaps that it's sent directly to our bank rather than waiting for a check from the city manager.
Thank you. Robbie, have y'all received your check?
Yes, ma'am.
You have received it, but the EDC has not. Thank you.
Anything further? I believe we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approval of the EDC's budget? It is unanimous, so it is approved.
Could we make a recommendation that in the morning, Jennifer, the funds have been received? We would like a recommendation. We would like to know why the CPC got theirs and the EDC did not, since it is required.
I can advise the city manager of your request, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. And so the next and final
I would like to make a motion, we adjourn, Mayor.
All right. Is anyone opposed? All right, we have a second. All in favor of adjourning? All right, it's unanimous. Thank you all.